Thank you, RJ. I'll do the Tanya Cubitt thing. Can everybody hear me? Everything's good? Perfect. As mentioned, I'm going to talk about some new products. I enjoyed listening to the speakers this morning, and they were talking about change. And many of you have known for a long time that I've done a lot of work for DAC certainly since Randy's owned it, but I actually did some work before Randy owned it. And I remember when Randy took possession of it, he said, I need some nutrition help. Would Performance Horse Nutrition help? I said, absolutely. Can you send me the formulas? And he said, I don't actually have the formulas. And I said, this is kind of important. We need the formulas. And so I got the formulas and I wrote him this ginormous email of all the things that I wanted to change. And I think I aged him significantly that day because he's like, I just bought this. You can't change it. We've got to sell these products to get paid. And I remember we talked about the oil. And I said, we need to change this. And he said, we can't change the oil. We can't change the oil. We sell too much. I've used it. It works. It works. It works. So the approach I had to use with Randy is I had to tell him what was in it that made it work and what I could add to it that would make it better. And then once we kind of figured that stuff out, then Randy and I kind of G'd and hawed, so to speak, on getting products done. But every single year I come up with products. Dr. Cubitt and I come up with products and I say, hey, I want to do this, or I want to fix this product, or I want to fix that product. And every time I can just see Randy just flinch just a little bit. He's like, that's one of our best products. And I'm like, yeah, I know, it could be better. And he's like, oh, all right. But literally what he said this morning, if it doesn't work, we're going back to the old. He said that to me more than once. So, all right, well, we'll go ahead and get started. What I'm going to talk about is improvements and innovation in the product line. So as an outline, the first thing I need to do is talk about fixing formulas. And there are two formulas that we had some errors in. Not errors in formulation, but just some things that didn't work really well together in the product. The first one we're going to talk about is Cool Gut. I believe that was in the top 5 or top 6 of products, and here I am going to change it again. Okay? And then another one we're going to talk about is the DAC Pre-Buff. Okay? A product that we've had a few issues with. We're going to talk about how I'm going to change that, or how I did change that. Then we're going to talk about some new products. We have a DAC Full Starter, I think, which you'll be very excited about, and then an LQ Performance, which is a liquid performance supplement. So we'll go ahead and get started on that. Now, what they won't let me talk about is deer products. Jenny, this is the inside of my office. So I'm sort of a hunter, and I've told you this before. I don't hunt for the sport, anything like that. These animals threaten school children, and I felt it my need to help protect my civil duty to protect these children from these wild animals. So we did that. We developed some really cool deer products. RJ is putting the brakes on me because I've got more things that I want to do. And I was trying to tell RJ, I said, well, the new thing is now, look, I've got international testing on this stuff. Okay, this is from a trip to Argentina. These are also in my office. So I was wanting to do some things with some of the deer products and stuff like that. And he says, you do know you're an equine nutritionist. Why don't you stick with that? So that's what I'm going to stick with. Now, I will tell you this. When RJ and Aubrey announced to me that they were pregnant, this was a big deal. Okay, I was really excited about it. They were obviously over the moon about it. Everybody was really happy about it. Okay, and then the child was born, and it's a male. So far, in the month that child has been born, okay, there's been an Amish baseball team contact him, trying to get him as a signed player at a month of age. There's a high school football coach that doesn't care anything about RJ, only cares about keep him in this community, keep him here so he can play football. Okay, so they're very, very interested in making sure that child turns out. I said, RJ, it'll be fine, it'll be fine. He said, have you seen the size of my wife? A kid that big's not gonna survive. He needs to grow. He says, can you work on something that may help stimulate the growth of that child? Now, I'm totally against human experimentation. Okay, so I decided to work a little bit on the pet side. Okay, so we've been working on some products. You see the animal off to the left? Fed the appropriate diet, he can turn into the product on the right. And look, he's still cuddly. So Aubrey, he's cuddly, he still works out good from that standpoint. So right now they won't let me have a canine enhancer, but if it's up to me, that would be next year's product. All right, back to the task at hand. So the first product that Dr. Cubitt went over that was very good, one of the top sellers, is a product called DAC Cool Gut. It's designed to support gastric health, total hindgut health, if you will. One of the things that it does is it normalizes the pH in the stomach. Okay, that's a big deal because horses do not have the ability to turn on and turn off acid secretion. They think that you're going to feed them appropriately and they're going to have feed in front of them all the time. And they nibble small amounts. That means that acid is useful, it helps with the digestive process, and it never turns off. Unfortunately, when we limit feed animals or we meal feed animals, they get that constant drip of acid. So they can get some ulcers associated with the stomach. So when we talk about normalizing pH, that means buffering some of that acid in the stomach so you're not getting some of the damaging effects from that acid. The other thing that we do, all of the ulcer medications, the things that you would get from your veterinarian, they're designed to help block acid production. Okay, that's how those medications work. But none of those medications have anything that helps repair tissue. So we thought it very important, okay, we need to make sure we put some things in here that help repair that damaged tissue. So things that we have in there, we have the glutamine in there. Glutamine is amino acid that actually helps with the repair process. We have calcite, that's our marine-derived calcium. It's a very porous structure. It helps pick up that acid and buffer it, so that's very important. Then we went the whole probiotic, prebiotic route in that as well, again to re-establish that microbiome in the hindgut and get that properly repaired, that properly functioning so the horse can digest properly. DHA, okay, very powerful anti-inflammatory. When you have tissue damage, it starts an inflammation response. We need to help mute that response so it doesn't get out of hand. Glycine, another amino acid that helps that. The whey protein concentrate is a source of some of the branched chain amino acids as well as those amino acids as well. Okay, great product. Only problem that I forgot about, whey protein stinks. Now, RJ accused me of putting that in there so he would get used to the smell of baby vomit. I did not do that on purpose. It was an oversight on my part. He didn't thank me for that pre-training, but you're welcome. Okay, the problem is when you get a client that opens a bucket that they paid good money for and it smells like vomit, it's a stretch to get them to continue to utilize that product. The other thing that it is, it's a stretch to get the horse to eat it. Now, what smells bad to us does not necessarily smell bad to a horse. So you got to kind of break that cycle. But I can tell you, if you're feeding something that smells like vomit every single day, you don't want to continue to do that. So we were having some palatability issues with the horses. We were having some palatability issues with the clients. So I needed to fix that. So what I did is I went in there and I changed the carrier. I changed the carrier to an alfalfa-based carrier. So it's back to the forage, something natural, something that horses like to eat. And I significantly decreased the whey. Now I made sure the amino acids were carried over in the formulation. I just took some of the whey out of it. The other thing that I did is I added a flavor to it. Okay, so I'm trying to mask any of the residual whey protein that would cause that palatability to be poor. Okay, so customer perception, what are they going to see? First of all, they're gonna have a much better smell to the product. You're not going to have that product smell that same vomit type color. The other thing that they're going to do, what do horse people pick up the quickest when you change something? If you change the color of it, the sky is falling, okay? That is a big deal to horse people. What'd you change? You changed something in it, okay? We did. We changed the color, but the color changed because we changed the carrier. Used to be kind of a chalky white pellet, okay? Now it's more of a greenish brown pellet, okay? Difference in carrier. The other thing that we did is we made the size of the pellet a little larger. It used to be in that kind of baby pig pellet, okay? It's a little bit larger pellet now, okay? So we needed to fix that. Exact same active ingredients. So everything in the catalog that was said about it, as far as what it does, what it improves, what it helps, which horses are supposed to get it, that is 100% the same. None of that changed. All we changed was the carrier and the pellet size. So it changed the color and it changed the pellet size. But everything else in that product will work exactly the same. So we fixed that. Now, the other product that I had trouble with is a product called DAC Pre-Buff. Pre-Buff was a product we had that was designed to maintain proper stomach pH. So, for lack of a better term, this is basically a buffer, an antacid, if you will, that you feed to horses. Okay? It's something that you can feed that will knock down that acidity, make it more basic or more alkaline. Okay, so you don't get the damage to the digestive tract, the damage to the stomach, something you can feed before that horse exercise, thus the name pre-buff, okay, pre-exercise, something that would help buffer some of that stomach acid so you wouldn't get that acid splash. Now, why is that important? Horses don't get ulcers standing around in stalls. Horses get ulcers once they start moving. The diaphragm contracts, it pushes that acid from the protected lower region of the stomach to the unprotected upper region of the stomach. That splash of acid, that's when they get ulcers. If you can give something that knocks down that acidity prior to exercise, that's a big deal. So again, Tanya and I were very excited about this particular product. So one of the main ingredients we have in that is the calcite, which is the marine-derived calcium. We've talked about that in lots of DAC meetings, that being instead of a mined source of calcium, that actually comes from algae in the ocean. It's a much more porous calcium, so it has an increased ability to buffer stomach acid because it can bind more of that acid. It also improves bone density and some other effective things as well. So it's a really good buffer. Okay, how good is it? We actually had this tested. Okay, we did this work at the University of Kentucky where they fed this and then they looked at how long it was able to maintain a proper pH in the stomach, one that wasn't acidic. In other words, how long could we provide that protection? And you can see that we can provide that protection for an extended period of time just by dosing those with the appropriate dose of pre-buff. Okay, great. Okay. Add the calcium source, add the proper calcium source, great buffer, and it works. Then we wanted to actually add an amino acid that's known to stimulate mucin production. Mucin is kind of like mucus in the sense that it helps protect a wound, okay, so it doesn't become irritated. The stomach produces that itself. This is an amino acid that helps stimulate that wound healing. So those are the actives that's in it. Now, the only problem I had is